morning. This is another Tell Me the Story. And I have here, and we're in the home of Charlotte French Hart. And we're going to be chatting with her for a while about her time in Sandwich and growing up in Sandwich and her different ancestors. So I think this will be quite interesting. Thank you, Charlotte.
Well, what
This
a
is
pleasure
going to be
to
fun.
have you here to do it.
Well, maybe we can start out by talking about your ancestors. Perhaps we can start with your grandfather, who you had shared with me, was in education.
Right.
And can you tell me a little bit about him, his name? And
Well, his name, I'm not sure if it was Lester Henry or Henry Lester. He had many initials, but he had graduated from Dartmouth College in around 1889, I think.
Yeah.
And came to Sandwich, and unfortunately, when somebody in my family has that town report, because last summer when I was so dysfunctionally able to live, anybody from the family that would save it, I said, take it. So you have it, because everybody was coming and going, and I wanted it to, my mother had saved it all these years.
So
But it said that this HF something French had been fitted at Dartmouth College and was the principal of the Sandwich High School Academy. But there's a whole story about the academy.
we have
here.
that, yes. Yeah, we'll be bringing that up to the archives. If
But so I'm not sure which school he was at, the one on Academy Drive now or the other one.
Yes,
But
yes.
at some point, that's what he did.
And so that was in the late 1880s.
1889.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And so, but he was here in 1900 because my father was born here.
Yep.
And he had 3 brothers that were
Your father did, yeah.
here.
Yes. And your father's name was?
Winthrop Ware.
Winthrop Ware French. And he had, you said 2 other brothers?
3.
3.
3 other brothers that were older.
Yeah.
There was Bertram, John, and Donald.
Okay. And so they grew up in Sandwich.
Right.
Right from...
They're all on the town hall, the roster that's over the stairs there.
Oh, sure, yes.
But there's only 3, because the next to the oldest brother, I think, had gone to Worcester Tech. And he was graduated like a chemical engineer. And it was during World War I, and so they sent him up to Canada because there was, I don't know, it was some very necessary thing. They worried about Canada and had to
This had to do with the war, yes.
Right.
And so he was assisting somehow in that effort.
He was, yes.
Yes, yeah.
So,
yeah.
But that, I only learned that a few years ago.
Oh, well, that's very
Everybody
interesting.
comes back. I'm the last one here in town.
Yes.
So,
Now, your father married a woman, her name was Helen Wills Kinney.
right.
Now, how did they meet?
Well, because my father supposedly went to Clark in Worcester one year, but then he went to Rhode Island State College the second year. He was 2 or 3 years younger than my mother. So,
Your mother and your father, how did they meet, Charlotte?
I have no idea. But I assume in Kingston somewhere.
Rhode Island.
Right.
Yes.
My mother had graduated from there, and she went to 2 years. She taught at Northfield Seminary. I think she taught home economics.
Oh, okay.
But she didn't stay there too long, and then she went to New Haven Hospital.
Oh.
And studied more medical.
More medical, towards the and that was going to be of great help to her, and we'll talk about that later on when they came to Sandwich and with Dr. Beal. We'll talk about that.
Yep.
So when did they come to Sandwich?
My mother.
Your mother and your father, yes. When did
My mother didn't come other than when I was birthed.
Okay.
She came down here because my sister was a year older.
Okay.
So that's why I was born in Cape Cod Hospital.
Oh, you were? Okay.
1926.
In 1926.
And that's the year it opened. It was called the Cottage. That's
Yeah,
what
Cape
the
Cod
birth
Cottage,
certificate-
yeah.
So, And I have a friend in Bourne. Well, and Carolyn Crowell's mother wrote my mother and told how many jars of whatever she had canned from the Crow Farm gardens.
Oh, sure, yep.
And Carolyn was born, I was born on the 7th, Carolyn was born on the 19th, and she hoped that her delivery and all would be as fine as my mother's. It was all
Oh.
beautifully written. I
Wasn't that considerate?
yeah, Eleanor has that
Yes.
letter now.
Oh, yeah.
Because I don't keep anything like that because my family is adopted and, you know, they don't know anything about that anyway.
So Carolyn was actually in your class
Oh, yes.
at H.T. Whiting.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, and I meant to find that picture of us playing in Carolyn upside down. They used to come and we'd slide down
Shulham Hill?
Swan Hill.
Oh, okay. Swain Hill?
Swan.
Okay.
The Swans live next door in, I don't know who lives there now,
Whereabouts is that in town?
by the brick house.
Oh, okay. We're going to talk about the brick house.
Yeah, the brick house, I call it a carnival now. It's just like a carnival.
Well, maybe we'll talk about the brick house. So, the first house that you lived in that your parents bought
Was they bought that before so we could move down
Uh-huh.
for $5,000.
Oh my gosh. And can you tell me where the house is? I think a lot of people will
It's
know this.
100 Tupper Road.
100 Tupper Road.
Yes.
And it's a brick house, isn't
And
it?
it's the last brick house in Sandwich.
Isn't that
But
something?
I think the bricks were made right next door
They probably were.
because they pump red water out 24/7. That's another story.
Did they really? So you grew up in that beautiful
I
brick house.
Mhm.
Can you tell us a little bit about what the inside was like? I'm
Oh,
sure
it
that
was
would be-
wonderful.
Oh,
It was wonderful because around 1900, Florence Lewis,
Oh, sure.
remember
Oh,
Florence
I
Lewis?
certainly do.
Told us, no, why was she related somehow? Whoever owned it had added that back end onto it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it was supposedly a school.
At one time?
It was 4 rooms, 2
Mhm.
up and 2 down, and there was a fireplace in each room.
Oh,
And it had the, you know, the window seats.
oh, did it really? Yes.
Mhm.
Yep.
But then, oh, and the kitchen was added so that that was the first room of the addition.
Okay.
But we called it the back alley because when we got it, it had a nice, you know, a nice big kitchen.
Yeah.
And the 2 rooms downstairs and the 3 rooms upstairs. But then after that, oh, and there was a big pantry off of the kitchen.
Oh, those are always handy.
Right,
yeah.
and there
Yeah.
was a hallway. And then there was a chicken coop or something.
Oh,
There were animals
Oh.
there, not when we were, but you
Yeah.
could tell.
Yes.
And then there was another door, and we were the only ones in town, I'm sure, that had more than 1 bathroom in their house in the 1933 because there was a bathroom.
An inside bathroom.
Yeah, we had in between the 2 brick things and the stairs. It had nice circular stair going
Did
up.
it? Yes.
Still does.
Yeah.
But one of the ladies cut the whole wall out. She zagged it down to make it open.
Oh,
I
so
don't-
yeah,
it's
so
kind
it
of
has
different now.
changed a bit. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But and then at the end of this last hallway was a 2-holer.
Oh, boy.
We had it. We called it the back alley, but it was so great, and it was such fun to play.
Yes, yes, yeah. Well, that was really something because a lot of people, of course, didn't have inside.
No, I know.
No. So that was quite something.
So we had 2 inside the back alley and 1 inside the house. That was
Quite something.
pretty good.
Yeah, really. Especially in those days, yes. I think there was one other brick house in town, which we talked about earlier.
Right, well, that was
Tell
where
us about
Hamlin's
that.
lived.
Mhm.
But that was also the made for the store of the brick factory.
Yes.
And in the Greenbrier cookbook, there had a lot of old pictures.
Uh-huh.
And there's one and it shows Marky Ellis.
Oh,
and Caddy didn't even know about it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Because the
standing-
Ellises lived in that area, of course.
Right
Yeah.
down the road.
Yes, yeah. So that other brick building, which is no longer there,
Right.
was on Harbor Street. And the Hamlin family used to live there. It was originally the grocery store or the store for the people who worked in the glass factory. is
Oh,
what I'm
right.
saying.
Yeah, but all the Hamlins, and there were 9
9 Hamlins that lived
Hamlins.
after of course, Jemmingdale, after it stopped being
Right.
a store for the glass factory
Right.
workers. The Hamlins lived in there.
Yeah.
9 children, huh? Yeah.
That's because Olive was the last one
Uh-huh.
to be alive, I think.
Olive Hamlin Hoxie.
Hoxie, she
Yes.
just died 6 months ago.
Yes, yes. She was the youngest, was she?
No,
Okay,
no, she wasn't. She had at least 2. There was Annie and somebody else,
okay.
I think.
Yeah. I can't remember when they took that brick. It was very large.
It fell down,
Oh, did it fall down?
sort of.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was really falling apart.
Pretty decrepit.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that was actually in the lot right next to
The
Anita.
Austins bought it,
Okay.
and that's where Phil Banks.
Phil Bangs and Anita Bangs
Right.
own the house right next to it.
Well, but part of that wasn't Anita in Austin. Why do I think that?
Mhm.
Because that's the mother had lived in the front part, and then they bought the other part of it. It must have
Okay.
been a double lot or something.
It perhaps was,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Well, that's very interesting. So I think it's going to be very interesting for people to know that you live in that brick house, which is really quite remarkable in town. You know, everybody goes past it and has seen it, and now they know who lived in it.
Well, it didn't look like it does now, believe me.
Yeah.
And then Jack Sworn, before they sold it to Mr. Ullman,
Uh-huh.
deeded 16 feet or 14 feet on the driveway side to my mother.
Oh, okay. Now, so you played in that area, obviously,
We did.
and that was before Route 6A
No.
was there.
Well, it was and it wasn't. There was
Uh-huh.
a little road, but it wasn't open
Known as Route, yes.
because when they opened that, I'm trying to remember, there was a big parade. The governor came down.
Really?
But see, we used to gather Mayflowers, and we'd stand, my sister, we couldn't go out alone. We had to be the 2 of us together. And we'd hold our little...
Your little Mayflower.
But they only had like a car an hour that went by. Usually there
In
were
those days,
too
yeah.
many cars.
So were you trying to sell those little
We
Mayflowers?
did.
Yes.
For
and
25 cents.
Well, look at that. Yeah,
We did.
yeah.
That was
Now-
our big thing. We went up to Donut Pond, which is, I try to figure out how we used to get in there.
Yes, because that's quite a ways away.
Oh, but we used to walk. Our Sunday
Everybody-
walk was all the way up around Shoreham Road and back down.
Okay, so
And down to Town Neck,
yeah,
here.
yeah. So Donut Pond actually is in the
What is it? Upper Shoreham.
Shawm Pond area.
But
Donut
I don't,
Pond.
is it still there?
I don't know. I don't
Because
know.
there used to be a frog pond where we went skating just over the railroad tracks on this side
Was
of
it?
Town Neck Road.
There was.
But
Yeah,
it's all closed in,
yeah.
grown in or whatever.
Who did you play with in those days? Who were your neighbors? Who were your childhood friends?
We had nobody right close, although probably in the 40s, early 40s or late 30s, there was a little girl that they rented where the bank is now, because that was
Okay.
the Yagan house. Do you
Okay.
remember that?
I
The
remember.
Hagans, you know Peg Wilson?
Yes, they used to call that Wilson Hill.
Right,
Yes, yes.
but Sandy Hagan lives right up the road now.
Oh, does
I
she?
don't know what her...
Now that whole hill,
was Wilson Hill.
that's Wilson Hill.
And that was when the canal started. That's where Belmont came and
Okay.
stayed, and they worked together.
Now, just so that we know, that house is still standing.
Oh yes, it's a
and it's-
museum. It's very, very. You've not been in it.
Yes, I have.
Hilltop.
Yes, it's called Hilltop
wonderful,
now.
Wonderful.
Yes. That is still there, and that was Mr. Belmont's house when he was here for the canal.
Right.
I see.
Right.
Uh-huh.
But Sandy lives right up the road now.
Yeah.
When I was at the thrift shop at St. Teresa's
Oh, yeah.
one time, we were talking, do you know?
Oh, yes.
And do where were you?
Yeah.
And so now she says, and your mother knew my mother.
Because in that day, they were very
Well,
close.
no, because there used to be a house
Yes.
where the bank is,
Uh-huh.
and that's where Sandy grew up.
Okay. Okay.
So it's too.
Isn't
She
that-
won't go back to Hilltop. I have that nice brochure from there.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
beautiful.
So many memories she must have.
Well, but she, it's a gorgeous place.
Gorgeous
But they
view.
came there every summer,
Uh-huh.
and
Yes.
then the house was there though because it was a restaurant once. Helen Trout had a restaurant there when we moved in 1933.
She did.
It was lovely, and they
Yes.
had little. The only time I saw little melon balls and
Oh, my
little mushroom
gosh.
things.
And so
But
there was
twice
a
a
restaurant
week.
up there too.
It was called it a tea.
A tea room. Now, where you lived in the brick house, did the Parkses live across the street at that
Always.
time? They always did.
Always. And I'll say it right out,
Uh-huh.
funky uncle, when the historical, whatever it was,
Society, whatever. Yeah.
no, when they decided that they would do a historical district of
Oh,
the
yes.
town,
Mm-hmm.
would not put Martha's house on it. My mother never ever forgave him. He was well, it's all right. When I moved down here, he leaned out of the window and said, remember, Charlotte, you're buying on the, across the track.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it was terrible to think that people could be so, but it's
Yes.
the way they were made, or I don't know.
Yes. Now, we chatted before about where, before your father actually bought that house, the brick house, in 1933 or so, your family used to rent different houses.
His
in
family
Sandy.
did.
His
We never
yes.
did.
Yes.
My,
Can you tell me?
Yeah, but
Your
I don't-
grandmother.
yeah, I'm not even sure. There was one, I think, that was taken down when they put in the, what do you call the outhouse?
Oh.
The town.
Oh, yes.
Right,
across
Town
from,
Hall
across
Square.
from the town hall.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
There was a house in there, and then the Dearborn house is, I think he was born in.
Oh, he was your grandfather.
Yeah.
Um.
Oh, no, my father.
Oh, your father. Okay.
My grandfather, French, and Nana French, that came in the late 1880s, came from New Hampshire,
Okay.
from Wilmot Flat.
Oh.
I've never been there, but you can pass through it, and it's near some academy that everybody has heard about it.
Uh-huh.
I can't remember, which is a town, but I didn't go up there to bother with it.
So your father was born in
1900.
1900, and then he was born in
Sandwich,
Sandwich
like,
on Main Street, which is the used to be the Eustace Dearborn house.
oh, I think so.
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
Yeah, I think that's what you said.
Yeah.
Which Mr. Keys lives there now.
Right.
Yes, right on Main
I
Street.
know
Yes.
it, and I have a nice thing from their house. I got at a yard sale before
Oh.
when they were moving out from Oak County Road. And he delivered it for me.
Oh, how
It would have
nice.
fit in my car.
Yeah.
But
How nice.
he would have taken it back when he came asking for money when he was running.
Oh.
So I paid him, gave him $20 just because he was so nice, and he asked if I still used it because I think he wanted it back.
Oh God.
But anyhow, that's how
Yeah.
I knew him.
So now you went to H.D. Wing School.
I did.
You did.
In the second grade,
You started in the second grade.
the end of the second grade, I'd gone to 2 other schools that year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I had Martha Newcomb. And they had long tables that we sat at.
Uh-huh.
And she made me carry a letter home saying that I was undernourished. And that's why I couldn't learn or do something. But, I mean, by the time I got to the 3rd school, I really didn't care. And my mother wasn't very happy about that.
About the letter?
No, she was a nutritionist.
Yes, well that wouldn't have gone over too big then.
No, it didn't. So anyhow, and it was only like a month or 2, and then I think I got whooping cough or something. It was a
Oh,
bad
dear.
year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But Martha retired that year, and so she lived up. Did you know Bunny Bartley? No.
On Grove Street?
Right, the big
The Bartleys, yes.
Anderson, who has it now,
Uh-huh.
Newcomb Tavern.
Yes.
Because Martha lived on the one half. It was a two-family.
Oh, well, it
and
was.
the Bartleys, she was her aunt of the Bartleys. Of that one Bartley. There was another Bartley family I'll tell you about.
Okay. Now, and so that family Bartley, that part of the Bartley family lived in, at that point in time, the Newcomb Tavern.
Right.
Now,
and they also lived in the one this side of it, the gingerbread house.
The gingerbread house,
yeah.
Yes, which is right next to
but
it.
that
Yes.
was a brother.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now, are you set? Now, was that your teacher?
Martha was my teacher.
Martha was your
and
teacher.
she retired that year, I think. But we always made a May basket and took it up to her.
Oh, you did.
On her far side,
Yeah.
and she always gave us a cookie.
Well, you know, I'd like for you to talk a little bit about that because May baskets.
I know it.
That nobody does
You
it.
can't buy crepe paper because I wanted to show. I was always going to show Mo Anchor.
Oh yes. Yep. Home for the holidays.
Yes, I love her, but
Yes.
I don't think she's too well right now.
So tell me about what was a May basket? What was the idea behind it, and how was it decorated?
Oh, well, you had crepe paper, and you took a knife or a nail, and you pulled it out and made little wrinkles and all fun things. It's a lovely, fun thing to do,
Yeah.
but you can't buy crepe paper anymore. But we used to do it. Mr. Chipman lived in the house, like 2 houses down from where I was. And he was the editor of the Wareham Courier in those days. And they must have been 100 too. No, they were probably as old as I am or younger. But anyhow, we used to take them a May basket.
Oh, you just took them.
Yes.
Now, what would be in the May basket?
Well, sometimes my mother made this wonderful candy like divinity fudge and different things, and we could put one piece in, or a cookie, or sometimes we just picked pretty little flowers along the way and took it. But it was a nice little
Basket.
basket.
Yes, yeah. That was a lovely tradition, wasn't it?
I know
Yes.
it. It
And
was
then you
fun.
knocked on the door, did you?
Oh, yes.
Yes, you knocked on the door,
No,
yeah.
we didn't run away.
Oh,
Well,
you
we
didn't.
might have hidden outside behind the first bush, but no, they would have been too old to chase.
To chase you, yes. Yeah, that would have been
Oh
too.
my gosh.
So getting back to wonderful memories, huh? Getting back to Henry T. Wing School. When did you graduate?
In 1944.
1944. How many were in your class?
12.
Oh my gosh, 12.
8 girls and 4 boys. But don't forget, that war was almost over, but it was a sad thing. And so anybody that was 16 and over, unless you had, good credentials for furthering your education, you had to go to war.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of men did go to war.
Yeah, and then the only one that really died in it was the Johnson, Eva Johnson's brother,
Yes.
Robert. Yeah, that was a sad.
It was a sad time. It was a hard time in Sandwich during those times. Was it
Well,
hard
I think
for
it
people?
was for older people, but you know what? We had a ball because they had 1 or 2 buses, and every Saturday night we used to go over there, and we were probably only like not 18 at that time.
And you used to go where?
To Camp Edwards.
To Camp Edwards.
And they had all, Glenn Miller, and they had all of the major swing bands.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And so at 17, 18 years old, you got to go over there.
That's we did.
And would you dance with the
Soldiers.
with the soldiers? So Camp Edwards, that was wonderful. So you got to get over there, and
Yes.
you used to dance with the.
But Sandwich now, before Camp Edwards, where Best Tees is, was
Oh, yes.
USO. And somewhere, if I could only find that book, it has a picture of
So that is the where Beth's Bakery is now on Java Street.
Right.
That used to be a USO.
yes, it did. Well,
Yes.
it was of the Catholic Church before that.
And even before that.
Right.
So they would have dances there, Charlotte?
Well, it wasn't very big because Yes, we used to dance in there, I think, play cards.
Oh, sure.
Hang out.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't even remember.
Now, during the war, as you say, it was different for teenagers and young people than it was for the older people who sort of realized, you know, the significance of the war.
Oh, but they all, the ones like Caddy's aunts and probably your relatives, they all, I think, whether they sewed at the town hall or sewed at home, but they made clothes, dresses and all kinds of nice
They did.
clothes for people, and a lot of them, they had nice, pretty big collars,
Oh, really?
so you could tell. But yes, and I never could get one,
Oh,
and I didn't.
Yeah.
My mother didn't make it. Or my grandmother made me a coat once. That was my first coat. We didn't have much in those days.
well, that's interesting that you should say that. So, really, in those days, there weren't clothing shops so much per se. A lot of the clothes
There
were
was a
handmade.
shoe store. Well, no, but my mother, we didn't. My father, don't forget, was a traveler. We got down here, and then he got transferred after a few years.
Okay, so it was your mom and you and your sisters for a good
Right.
part of the time. Yeah.
After like 5 or 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
No, because no, Jane is 10 years younger. So he came home at least once in a while. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyhow, in the 40s, he was long gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, can you talk about some of the businesses and the stores that your mother
The
and
big thing was Russell's Market at the corner.
uh-huh.
Russell's Market with the pickle bar, jug barrel in the
Oh,
corner.
yes. Yeah.
Yep. And then, I don't remember what was in the hardware store, unless it was hardware.
Could have been hardware. Perhaps Mr. Liberty?
I bet it was, because Jackie is he still alive?
Yes, he is.
Is he?
Mhm. So it might have been the elder,
younger.
Mr. Liberty's hardware store,
Right.
about the same time as Russell's Market with Bill Russell Sr.
But I'm trying to remember because, my sister, this, I have to say,
Oh, please.
Jane, was saying that when you lived on this Jarvis Street, you had a burro,
Oh,
and that's what she said.
yes, we did.
And
Yeah.
you used to ride it all around the yard. First, it was only last night when she said, well, it was a burro, and so be
Yes.
sure and say
It was a donkey or a burro.
a donkey. She said
Yes.
donkey first, but she said
Yeah.
then they called it a burro.
Yes, oh my gosh. Well, we're supposed to be interviewing you, but I will explain that a little. My family lived on Java Street,
Right.
19 Java Street, and you're right. When we were little, my grandfather and my father and my uncle, Howard Carlson, went up way up the
I never knew
line.
Howard and Margaret Carlson.
Yes.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
Yes, Margaret was my brother's sister. And they got our family, they got us kids, there were 4 of us, a burro.
Father's sister.
Yeah, my father's sister, yeah. And so we had a burro for many years. Oh, so your sister remembered that, huh?
Oh, yeah, she was, well, sure, she was green with envy.
Oh.
How many people had a burro and it was right in the village.
Yeah, we used to ride it all over the place.
Right.
So how about the post office?
The post office
That was a
right
social kind of...
every night at 6 o'clock. Everybody, not everybody, but there were probably 10 or 15 people that gathered, and we waited, and then Mrs.
Potnick, okay.
from Mashpee came, and she parked out front, and she put the trunk of her car up. So when that mailbag came, she just picked hers out and tossed it in, and off she went. And Mashpee got their mail.
And so they had to take the sandwich mail and put it in the different boxes, I guess, and that's how people got their mail.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And so she would arrive every night about 6 o'clock with the mail.
No, she came to pick it up.
Oh, okay, she came to pick it up.
Must have come off
Excuse
of the
me.
train,
Excuse me.
but
Yeah.
she came from Mashpee in her
Okay.
car.
Okay.
I mean, you didn't have to have a truck or anything. Well, I mean, how many people had a car and gas
Yeah,
in those days?
yeah.
But that would have not been until the early 40s,
40s?
38, because we wouldn't have been old enough
To even go down, yes.
to be hanging out
Down there,
and
right.
know what hanging out was all about.
Yeah.
But I can remember at low tide, we could go from our house across to the shore house.
Really? Now let's talk a little bit about that, because you shared with me a couple weeks ago when we were chatting.
Caddy, how we went
Yes.
across, and if you look, because there was the gas stations, there were 4 gas stations right at the corners there. The Wilsons had 1 or 3, I don't know, maybe there were only 2.
Uh-huh.
The Wilsons and the Drinkwaters.
And the Drinkwaters.
had one.
And that's right in that area where we have street lights now, where Tupper
Right,
Road
right,
feeds into 6A.
right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you
And
used
then there was, the gas tanks weren't always there, but Freddie Earl
Yes.
was one of the gas stations, and he had a little greasy spoon in part of it, and that was a big place.
a big place for people to congregate and to,
Well, it wasn't known in the 30s. In Howard, what was his name? Harry Drinkwater, that had one of the gas stations. And Wilson's had one, and
Freddie?
Freddie Earl.
Yes. So there were 3 right in that
Right.
area. Yeah, yeah.
So, and when we sold our Mayflowers, there was nothing on our corner.
Yeah.
That was on
Just-
Wilson's,
yes.
whatever they called it.
Yeah.
So anyhow, wait a minute, now where were we? We were going to say something.
Well, you said you were playing with Caddy.
Oh, right,
Yes,
right, right.
and that would be
So-
Caddy
yeah,
Alice
okay.
Currier.
Right.
Yes.
Right, but she lived on the end of Church Street, and there wasn't anything other than a little teeny bit of a gas station. So we could walk from her house at low tide across the railroad track, and we could jump a couple of little rivulets,
Sure.
and then the town still owns a strip of land there between the, whatever they call that house now, we call it the Parks House and the marsh. And they plow it, or not plow it, they mow it. And so we come, it was so easy, it didn't take not even 10 minutes walking.
Yeah, across the marsh. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep,
Oh.
and right up there.
Did you ever play, I would imagine that what we call up in the Moody Drive area, up on the hill.
Oh, Burbank Hill.
Yes, that was called Burbank Hill.
Well, on Moody Hill, Burbank. But the
But in that
Burbanks
area.
owned the whole top.
They
of
did.
it. Swan, we called it Swan Hill,
Uh-huh.
because that's where we used to slide.
Oh, okay.
And I often
Yes.
wonder, because Carolyn and Eleanor Crowell used to come over and slide with us.
Oh, they did. Yeah.
Sometimes because you had that whole nice,
That was a huge hill.
well, it was in
Yes.
those days,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Yeah.
But there weren't anything, it was just all, I don't know if Mr. Burbank had cows, he might have had cows up
Might have been a
there.
pasture. But in any case, it was just
But we
a
didn't
field.
go up to we only went to the top of that hill to
Yeah,
slide down,
yeah.
ski down.
So you graduated in 1944.
Right.
Can you tell me the names of some of the people that were in your graduating class?
Well, we only had 12 people.
Yeah, right.
We had 4 boys. We had Gordon Davis, Billy Schuster, Billy McLaughlin, Gordon Davis. Did I say Gordon Davis? Like, isn't that?
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh, Channing Hoxie. of
Oh,
course.
Channing was in your grade.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that must have, but I don't remember. Channing went to school and Gordon went to, school afterwards.
Yes.
And then there
went
was
to school.
Marjorie Burke, Edith Hall, Carolyn Crowell, Connie Ockett.
Oh, you're doing good, yeah.
Well, they're all my friends.
Yes, yes.
Caddy Currier
She was in your
and
grade.
Dagny Michelson.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And I think that was was, oh, and Marie Geltz.
Oh, yes, the
Marie
Geltz.
Geltz Metcalf.
Mm-hmm. We've talked about your mom and dad. Your mother, Helen,
Right,
worked for Dr. Beale.
right.
And of course, could you tell me a little bit about that? Because he was a much beloved doctor in our town,
Right.
as you know.
I know. He delivered me.
Did he really?
He
Yes.
did. Cape Cod Horse. But his relatives, also his sister, lived next door to, and that could be too, now I think about it, in Kingston, Rhode Island.
Oh. Oh.
So, yes, so that was, they always knew each other somehow.
Even from way back. What did your mother do in Dr. Beale's office? What was her position, her job?
Well, like a technician, a
Mhm.
nurse technician. In those days, they didn't have x-rays and they didn't have any machines other than a diathermy machine, which I'm sure they don't have anymore. She used to travel with whatever it was to people's houses that couldn't move out or do whatever.
Yeah.
And then she would take their blood.
Draw their blood, yeah.
Yeah, she used to prick their ear.
Oh.
And then I think she learned you could do it on your finger too.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We tried to avoid that, but that's
Yeah.
what she did to other people.
And she worked for Dr. Beale for many, many years.
Oh, she did.
Yes.
She did.
Yes.
She took time off to have her children.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
she did, and yes, and we had a telephone because of that probably,
Oh.
always, so she could
Yes.
be called. And then she had gas points, so she could go sometimes, I think, all the way to Mashpee or something if somebody was, impaired.
So would she assist Dr. Beale in deliveries?
No,
No.
no,
Okay.
no.
Okay.
No, and I don't know when, well, I guess, whether he still did that, because Cape Cod Hospital was born,
Okay,
in
so-
1926.
Okay. So
And she didn't start to work there until, well, we were here a few years.
sometime after 1933.
Right,
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
in the late 30s.
Yeah.
She started working there.
Yes.
Because the bridge was done, the canal.
The canal. Yeah.
And that's why my father had come, and he got transferred to some other place with the Corps of Engineers.
So your father worked on the canal during its
Right, that's why we
construction.
came.
Yeah.
He was a survey, whatever, on boats.
Your aunt and uncle, that would be your
Hazel
mother's
and-
sister and her husband.
No, my father's
Oh, excuse me,
brother.
of course.
Father's brother.
Brother, of
And
course.
his wife. Yeah. Yeah, he was
Thank
the
you for
oldest
keeping
one.
me straight.
Yeah, and my father was the youngest one,
Yeah. So his name was Bertram
Bertram.
French.
B.C. or Copper. Yeah, Bertram Coffer.
And he worked
He
on
was
the
the
canal.
head of the state roads from Middleborough to Provincetown and the islands.
Mm-hmm.
You have to say all those
those.
things.
I found an article, which I'm just going to read a little bit of it, because I thought it was very interesting, about your uncle. It says, French will head hospital campaign, and it was in the Falmouth Enterprise in 1959. And it says, appointment of Bertrand C. French of Sandwich as regional chairman for the Upper Cape in the $1,300,000 building fund campaign of Cape Cod Hospital.
That's probably. so.
Yes. Yeah, he was the head of the campaign for the Upper Cape to help.
Well, people didn't like him.
Oh.
And I didn't really know him. We had to go, that house in his office had probably the only time I ever saw Mission Stickney furniture.
Oh,
A
yes.
big oversized oak with a leather
It is quite.
chairs and his big desk, because when you're little you have to act big. I've decided.
Yeah.
Oh shoot.
Yeah.
But he was never my best friend.
Okay. Now, how about your aunt? That would be Hazel
Annie
French.
Hazel. Oh, she used
his
to,
wife.
yes,
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 Hazel
yes.
French.
And when she lived at the Shore House, she had now, and I don't know how they ever cleaned it out, is their library.
Ah.
And it's very, very stunning. It was a lovely, but Auntie Hazel had seaweed, like kelp, the
Oh.
big, and all the wonderful things hanging
Oh,
all around.
really?
And she had her whole bench because she had graduated from the art school in Boston
Mhm.
and had gone to finding pieces, shards of sandwich glass.
Sandwich glass.
Digging, and sent them to New York, and would get a whole tray full of different sizes, and whatever size she got, she would make into a piece of jewelry.
Piece of jewelry. And she was, that jewelry was quite dear and was quite...
It still is.
It still is,
It still
yes.
is, right.
Yeah.
They
yeah.
used to have a display at the Glass Museum,
Yes.
but now they haven't, they've changed it.
Uh-huh.
But, yes, and it's probably more widely known out of this area than it is in this area now.
Yeah, she was quite famous with that
Because
jewelry.
at the Smithsonian they had some, I know.
Really?
Yeah, that she did very, very, very well.
And they lived, if I'm correct, they lived on Main Street,
Right. 157.
154, I believe,
Was it?
Main Street, where Home for the Holidays
Right,
is now.
exactly.
Yes.
That's
yes.
it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's so, I love to go in there because it was always, but it was in 1940 that they moved there.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
So, because as the Shores came back.
Yeah. That was a grand house. With the, when you walk in the front door, the staircase.
Going up, I know.
Yes.
I
yeah,
know.
Yeah.
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 It is. And they still have the old cast iron stove out. Do you ever go in there?
I haven't seen the cast iron stove.
Did you ever go where they have the kitchen stuff?
Yes.
Well, it's on that old stove.
Oh, it is. Okay.
I think
okay.
it
yeah.
was.
Yeah.
But see, they added on a beautiful big function room for the mother, for Terry.
Yes, for the Ankers. Yes. Yes. Well, this has been so interesting. Now, before we end, I'd like to ask, we've chatted about all kinds of things. Is there anything that I haven't touched on that you particularly would like to let us know?
That we used to do. Well, we used to have a good time. We never talked about Connie Orchid,
Okay.
but she was a very interesting person. And Edith Hall, Huck,
Yep.
is down in East Sandwich now, but she's a benefactor of, like, Greenbrier. And she is here, not permanently. She has a permanent house, but she goes up to Wilbraham. So it's interesting. Connie died years ago, but this Carolyn is in her homestead, and now that Edith is back for the summer, and Caddy is away this weekend, but by next weekend the four of us will have gathered, probably, unless I invite everybody here, which I could do, but
Yes.
I have to decide.